Hey everybody, welcome back to Books, Banter and Beyond. And today's show is about an interesting style of book that has kind of gone to the wayside. We're talking photojournalism and why it should be more prominent. Hey guys, my name is Rob. This is my mom Karen, and we are your hosts over at Books, Banter and Beyond. And today, it's something that I remember reading more of back in the 90s when there was a lot more magazines such as Time and National Geographic doing this. And it's photojournalism. And for those who might be in the study of it, or maybe you know somebody who's worked as a photojournalist, it's a very intriguing style of, in this case, book, but generally it's the photos that are telling the story. So instead of a author writing a book, it's the camera person showing you the story through a set of images. And as I mentioned, one of my favorites was National Geographic, because what they did very well was they were able to, yeah, you guys have
We have
the
stacks of
collection.
them, yeah.
What they did very well was they were able to capture whether it was a culture, whether it was a natural thing. They were able to tell you a story with vivid black and white or color photos, depending on what they were going at.
Right.
But I've noticed that recently, not as much of that is done. And I'll throw it out as just as a first idea. I'm wondering if either of us have an idea as to maybe why there's less photo than there used to be. Is it
Hmm.
more because in this age everybody's kind of just flipping through really quickly? You
Yeah,
know what? And I'm kind of
I
thinking
think
maybe that's the reason.
that would be my first answer. I mean, we still get National Geographic. We've been getting it as long as we've been married, 41 years, and we have stacks and stacks. And I know when it shows up every week, every month, Dad will literally cover to cover. He will go from one cover to
Right.
the other, right? Everything. I mean, it's the only magazine really that he reads. Interesting, I said reads because really what he's doing is looking at these photos, which are amazing. It's almost like reading a documentary, right? Instead of watching one.
That's actually, yeah. As you know, one of my favorite hosts is David Attenborough. He does all of those BBC
Right.
shows. And that to me is kind of a photojournalism in visual media in terms of video. And it does give you a very interesting idea of it because, yeah, you can read an article about a group of people. You can read an article about, a natural wonder, but if you don't have the visual, if you don't have the actual image, it's not going to be as, I think, deep or important as if you were to just take a bunch of words and put them together and go,
Right.
here, read
You're,
about this.
and you're also seeing it through the lens of that particular photographer, right? I'm
Yes.
assuming, I would guess that if you went out and, well, you're not a photojournalist, neither am I, but let's just pretend we are, and we went out and took photos of the same thing, we're probably going to get two different versions of that same image because we're going
Yeah,
to,
I mean, if anybody out there watching it goes online and looks at people's photos, you'll notice that you can look at, let's say, five different pictures of, bears in the wild, and while it's all the same type of picture, you'll probably get five very different viewpoints of what it is. Sometimes maybe it's more of an intimate thing because you're very, in the mood. Maybe it's more of a let's just show you the general type of thing. But I think you're right. I think you could take the same picture of something and get very different stories behind the purpose and the meaning of whoever it was that took the photos.
I really love the idea that it's photojournalism. So it takes the word journalism, which we all know as somebody who writes, right?
Right.
If you take journalism. So this is sort of like it's more than just a collection of images. This is more like a window into the stories because you're looking through it rather than just reading books. And how you will understand the world is going to be different based upon this visual that you're looking at. Is that what you think? I mean, is that basically it?
Well, actually, that brings us to a good question that we have was, how do books like this influence our thoughts on stuff? And that's exactly it. You're going to get a very different personal view on a specific issue or something at hand than somebody else might, depending on how you read into it. And I think a lot of photos also are of personal reference. So let's say you
Mhm.
grew up somewhere than somebody else, the same photo may give you two very different personal thoughts. If you lived on one area where, let's say, the photo is more of a, a shocker, you may have more of a negative connotation than if you see the same photo but you grew up with that thing as a positive.
Right.
You may have two very different
And
viewpoints.
I think it does change, though, our perspective, right, of global issues. When I think of climate change, and I think of photographers that have gone out there, photojournalists who have taken photos of
Yes.
what's happening in our world, ice, the ice is melting, and the seas. We're seeing this visually, and it's not a bunch of words. And when we read words, we don't. I don't think we. Well, our imagination obviously will
Right.
will kick in, but when you see the actual pictures, that's a totally different thing.
So then I'll throw this one out to you. Do you think that with all the pictures that we see, is this a good way to preserve, the history of the world? Because if you don't do it this way, you kind of lose
I
the
think you need both. I think you need both because, again, just like we said just a few minutes ago, depending on who's taken the picture, we're going to see what we see. It's
right.
also, as individuals, we see what we see. And I think if you combine those images that is historical with the words to kind of, I think you need both. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, obviously, if you're going to be reading, you need the words. I definitely think though that somebody who either photographs, in this case for this topic here, when they use photos, I definitely think for me personally, it gives me more of a want to stop and look,
Right,
not only at the beauty of the photo, but also to kind of think, wow, what was this person doing? What were they, where were they coming from when they took the photo? What was the deal? So I think the photos definitely give me more of a perspective than if they just said, hey, this is my trip to Yosemite, enjoy. There's a very different between the
right.
words and the photo. And yes, you do need both, but I think the photos really do help.
Do I just put up there our scroll down there for to remind people to go visit the Next Chapter Bookstore shop. Do you have photojournalism books in there?
I think we actually may have gotten in a couple. One I think is actually an interesting one. It's baseball stadiums throughout the years, and it's photos of various stadiums from around the world and how they kind of changed. And I think we have one on Native American culture as well. And it has photos of the people, it has photos of some items, it has photos of the landscape. So, there's a few there. Again, I always look for them because I know it's a very popular thing. But even I struggle to find good photojournalism books because those who have them keep them, and
Right.
those who do sell them, they're not as intricate as
Well, we used to call them coffee table books.
That's yeah. I think if you go to certain bookstores, a lot of times there's a whole section, and that's the title. They call them, coffee table decorative books because
Which
that's
means,
what they're there
yes,
for.
somebody sits on the couch, sees this book there, and says,
Exactly.
"Oh, what is that?" And they open it up, and they get lost in the books. So that's it, because those are photojournal. We have quite a few of those, right? And they're because it struck our fancy when we saw it. It was something we were interested in, or somebody gave it to us. Like
Exactly.
we have a photojournalism book on penguins. Gee, I wonder why. Because
There you go.
we're penguin freaks, guys. So I kind of like that. Okay, I'm going to have to go check out more photojournalism books. As always, it's always a pleasure having these conversations week after week. We encourage you to join us next week. Tell us what your favorite photojournalism book that you might have at home. Let us know what you're looking at. We are always interested. Go out, give somebody an awesome day. Bye, everyone.